Audre Lorde once said, "Your silence will not protect you. Your silence will not protect you. Your silence will not protect you." And I just wanted to dedicate this video to her. And I wanted to also start this video by reading some of her quotes. One of them, again, is, "Your silence will not protect you." Another one is, "I am deliberate and afraid of nothing." Another one, "Nothing I accept about myself can be used against me to diminish me. I am who I am, doing what I came to do." Define yourself for yourself, or you will be crushed in other people's fantasies and eaten alive. And lastly, in regards to 4b, "For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change." So this video today is about what we're seeing in the media and what we're seeing journalists do in regards to the erasure of the female. And I think that everyone is seeing this, but I think that for the most part, people are scared to talk about it. But I just want you to listen to this article that I'm about to read. It says, "The Canadian Cancer Society faced backlash after suggesting the use of the term front hole instead of cervix on a web page about cervical cancer. The charity's decision was made to accommodate transgendered men, trans-identified females, and non-binary individuals, also females, because..." Why is the because? Can biological men be born with a cervix? Yeah. "The charity's decision was made to accommodate transgendered men and non-binary individuals, many of whom feel distanced from the term cervix." The nonprofit organization led by Andrea Seal acknowledged the mixed feelings within the LGBTQ+ community, and in its Words Matter section, "We recognize that many trans-identified females and non-binary biological females people may feel, have, or have mixed feelings about the word cervix." The Canadian Cancer Society stated, "You may prefer other words, such as front hole. We recognize the limitation of the words we've used, while acknowledging the need for simplicity. Another reason we like to use the word cervix is to normalize the reality that men can have these body parts too. Cervical cancer, which affects the lower part of the uterus, is most commonly caused by the human papilloma virus, HPV, a sexually transmitted infection. Treatments include radiation, chemotherapy, medicine, and surgery." The charity stressed the importance of regular cervical cancer screenings for anyone with a cervix. Not women with a cervix. Anyone, implying that men can also have cervixes too. Now, is this real? Is this something that's true? Is this something that's based in our reality, in biological reality? When did biology stop mattering? So this is what I wanted to speak about, because we're seeing this a lot in media, and we're seeing this a lot in journalism. And I was on a live yesterday on Twitter, and they were talking about how there's this sweeping wave of people not referring to women as women any longer. Pregnant women are not allowed to be called pregnant women. They are allowed to be called or it's suggested that they be called pregnant persons, pregnant people, uterus holders, vagina carriers. And this is an issue. This is an issue. And I think it's an issue because it does bother women, but women are scared to say anything. And we heard at the top of this live or the top of this video, your silence will not protect you. It won't. If something is bothering you, then it makes sense that people talk about it, or at least question why it's so difficult now to not acknowledge biology. And this is my personal opinion. I don't believe for a millisecond that any trans-identified female called up the Cancer Society and said, we don't like the word cervix. I sincerely doubt that. And the reason why I doubt that is because I've noticed for a long time the behavior of the trans-identified female. She's not as vocal as the trans-identified male. She doesn't really make a fuss. She doesn't make a fight, and she's also not advocated for at all. And we see this in the recent dealings with this one trans-identified male who raped the trans-identified female, and it was a huge issue because everyone in the community sided, not surprisingly, with the trans-identified male and taking down the trans-identified female's whole persona online. So the trans-identified female felt that she had this alliance until she accused a trans-identified male of rape. So I just wanted to also read the new language or the new speak that the media and journalism, they're pushing out to us as, you know, the public. And this is from the National Institute of Health. And this says, well, this is inclusive and gender neutral language, all genders instead of both genders. Breastfeeding instead of chest feeding, or chest feeding instead of breastfeeding. Chairperson versus chairman or chairwoman. Everyone versus ladies and gentlemen or men and women. Parent, parenting, caregiving instead of mothering. So this is why there's this new move to take mother off of the birth certificate. So instead of, you're going to see this soon because I heard that this is going to happen in New York City any minute now. Instead of seeing mother and father, you're going to see parent 1 and parent 2. Because they're saying that they want to be inclusive to the trans community and not bombard trans-identified females with, you know, the label of mother. Because many of them don't identify with being women, so to have themselves be called mothers is just icky, and they don't want that. So it also says, avoid language that assumes the mother is the primary parent or caregiver. Use parenting instead of mothering, unless referring specifically to a mother-child relationship. You can also use caregivers and caregiving to be inclusive of non-parents in caregiving roles. And the last one that I see here is pregnant women should not be used and pregnant people should be used. And this is what it says. Both pregnant women and pregnant people may be acceptable phrases. It is not always necessary to avoid the word women by substituting phrases like birthing people or people with uteruses, especially in public health content. Gender-neutral terms like pregnant patients, pregnant people, birth parent, or other wording as applicable, pregnant teens, present and inclusive alternative. Use judgment and context to determine whether to use pregnant women, pregnant people, pregnant patients, or other inclusive descriptors. Specific phrasing like people with uteruses can be helpful when writing NOFOs or advertising studies to ensure only eligible participants are enrolled for the specific research conducted. Yeah. What do you think about that? What is it with that? We're going to talk about journalism in this video, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing. When it comes to the collective erasure of the female, we see that everyone who is employed by a corporation has to participate in the new speech, linguistic tricks, delusional nonsense. And I know you have seen it. I know you have seen it broadcasted, and I know you have seen these reporters all claim that they have to participate in these new linguistic tricks to include members of the trans community, and I am here to tell you that it is made up bullshit. You have seen it, and don't you dare claim that you haven't. Articles that call pregnant women pregnant people so that trans-identified females who are pregnant can have that inclusion of not being labeled woman or mother. This is shocking, but we know that as biological women, those are the only beings that are able to carry a fetus to term, to feed that fetus with her own body, and to give birth. Is that not biologically true? Have we ever seen in history a pregnant biological male give birth to a child and breastfeed that child? I'll wait for you to think about it. I'll wait. These biological differences and acknowledging these biological differences do not make people bigots. It makes people dwell in reality. And there's nothing wrong with dwelling in reality. And this is what the biological woman can do with her body. This is what she can do with her body as a biological female. So when you read these reports and all of these newspapers, now with journalists claiming that men can get pregnant and trans-identified males can breastfeed, you have to reject the lies. These are lies. You are being lied to as women, and the cover for these lies is inclusion, intersectionality, and other nonsense you were bullied into thinking, and this is what we have seen with an all-male ideology. Religion is a prime example of these linguistic tricks, games that men play to get you to participate in new language, new speech. There was never any God, and he knew it. He knew that there was never a God. He didn't know that anything existed from what we could see, but he had to lie to people. He had to lie to women to get her to believe in something that he made up. And he made sure to put his God that he invented in law, in every book, and also in every school to program you and your children with his nonsense idea. The new speak is systemic, and these journalists are also participants in the erasure of women. They know that biological men are not able to carry a fetus to term, but they will write in their papers that men can get pregnant to confuse you into thinking that biological men can actually give birth to children. This is wrong, and this is not true. These are more than just little white lies. These are tricks to get you to question what is real, and these reporters and journalists are set to the task to further confuse you because this ideology is embedded in male rights and his hatred of the woman that many women always deny. They always deny it. It is the woman who still lies underneath a man or who gave birth to a male that is steadily defending male behavior. Like the mother in UK. You remember that mother we spoke about who found out that her precious baby boy assaulted a young girl in one of those new gender-inclusive bathrooms, tormenting the poor girl, and yelled at a reporter that she did not raise her son to rape girls. You may not have raised him to rape girls, but you sure didn't school him on what rape is and why he should not do it. She didn't. She just assumed that, well, yeah, he's a boy and he would know better. A lot of them don't. See, It's that thing right there. Mothers of boys say nothing and assume that they are raising these boys right. They are not. Girls get different instructions, and that is because society is less forgiving of the girl, and from a very young age, she is brought up on how to act. Listen to this Tumblr read about the decline of the male intellectual. This is so good. I love Tumblr for their rad femme spaces. And this is going to take me a minute to read because it's really long. There's two things that I wanted to read from Tumblr, but this is the first one in regards to the decline in male intellectualism and how men are able to get away with this lack of intellectualism because of male supremacy. And there was also something so amazing written about this girl who went into a bookstore and she saw displayed the nude book, and I think it's called I Hate Men. And then the girl who decided to post it, I don't want to call her a pick me, but she said something along the lines of, well, there's this movement to hate the male. And there's these movements to hate the boy. And this is so heartbreaking that this is now in literature. And then the rad femme who decided to reblog it and repost it in Tumblr said, but wait, literature surrounding the hatred of women has also been put into law. Pick up any religious text, pick up any old psychology book written by a male. Look for anything written by Freud, written by Plato, written by Socrates. Look at all of these ancient men. Look at stuff like we spoke about yesterday in regards to Muhammad. Look at what Muhammad wrote about women. The male hatred of women has always been documented by men. And this moment in time where women are starting to kind of speak out, they're being shamed for it. The hatred of men is not allowed at the same capacity as the hatred of women. Men hate women and they document it everywhere. We see it in the blogs. We saw it with the Red Pill movement. We saw it with the rise of Kevin Samuel and Andrew Tate. Men made those men almost millionaires, and no one batted an eye. But as soon as women kind of say, I don't like what's happening, you have other women saying, you need to be more kind. You sound like a man hater. But let's get back to the Tumblr. It says men and boys are increasingly anti-intellectual, and this is primarily because of male supremacist culture. Because men are the ultimate status quo, male supremacy can never be examined as an ideology. They are mentally coddled by privilege in every way. Even in school, they are not challenged to critique or question male supremacist bias. This reflects in their art, debate, and writing. Intellectualism encourages humanization of human issues. It requires introspection. Ego makes introspection and reflection nearly impossible, and society inflates the egos of boys from day one. Society inflates the egos of boys from day one. This is why most men can be professors or religious scholars and still remain so fucking obtuse about the basic mechanics of human evil in society. Their analysis of social evil is infantile, simplistic, and delusional because they censor any damning data against the elite class of men. They will sprout thought-terminating cliches in order to shield themselves from the reality of male violence and how it flourishes directly due to male culture. So there is no reflection or self-examination, no exposure to relevant data, which can only trap them in intellectual dishonesty and hypocrisy. Anti-feminists are always anti-intellectual because they must take male supremacy, violence, and privilege for granted. They then spend the rest of their lives wondering at the dissonance they never seem to quell and call it an unanswerable mystery of the human condition. Ooh, mouth-watering. So in regards to male intellectualism and that being faulted, why should the male continue to be in charge? What have we seen with him being in charge? He cannot be trusted. And the reason why he cannot be trusted is because we have seen his hand historically. And his hand historically has always had the woman's blood on it. And instead of women seeing this, they entrust these men again to lead these corporations and for these corporations to put out the message that these men want to be put out. And then women turn around and they say, how did this happen? How did we get here? Another 1,000 years of oppression. It happens because you are fucking participating in your own erasure. The minute that you decide to call your cervix a front hole is the minute that you are dead. The minute that you decide to call yourself a uterus holder is the minute that he got you again. And here we sit again with the male aiming to erase the female again. It's just a different ball game, but it's the same story. Why should he be entrusted again? Why should he be entrusted? He should not be entrusted to do anything further here on out, right? And this is what I wrote about it. And this is a decline. This is a decline in male intellectualism, and he should not be entrusted with anything. They can't even see, men can't even see patriarchy as a system set up for them to essentially destroy them because it is the strong arm of capitalism. They can't even see how damaging their own system is to themselves. Or maybe they can see it and they're just hoping that the entire globe crashes and burns. Maybe that's it. Maybe they can see what they're doing, and for them, they don't really give a shit because tomorrow is the robot. Tomorrow is the transhuman. Tomorrow we have the hijacking of pregnancy and childbirth to be removed from women and to be given to the corporation, because this is what it's leading to. They need the product to keep the machine going. Right? We're hearing it all the time. The senator in, I think it was Kentucky, and he said the quiet part out loud. Women are having too many abortions. Those children that, died could have been working. So we see how the male thinks. He never lies. But I wrote he should not be trusted, and we should not trust him. And then these journalists are partaking in this erasure because everyone is scared to go against the machine and to challenge the new narrative and the new speech and the new speak and the new linguistic tricks that we are now under. The new narrative is that you, dear listener, are replaceable, and you are easily replaceable by a male. You are always hated. Make no mistake in that. You are always hated. And now, not only are you hated, they can actually make you disappear. Because once they take your labels away and once they take the laws away from you, then you no longer exist on paper. If you no longer exist on paper, what rights do you have? If you no longer are listed as the mother to the child that you gave birth to, wouldn't that further separate you from that child? That would make sense to me, and it's always been about the separation of mother and child. But this is what these journalists are doing. This is what these journalists are participating in. So one thing that you can do is that when you do read an article that's inaccurate, you mentally correct it. If you read an article that starts with, oh, a pregnant person was unalived by her boyfriend, you say pregnant woman, because you know that biologically, only women are allowed to be pregnant. Only women can or have the capacity to be pregnant. And woman, by the word woman, I mean adult human female. Biological men who are envious of you, jealous of you, and literally cannot stand you outside of sex and reproduction of the next workforce are interested in your erasure. And they're doing this on a corporate level. And this corporation, it feeds into what we digest as the public in social media, whether it be news articles, videos, anything that we see on YouTube, TikTok, name it. This is what's happening. And in order for us to combat this, we have to look for news sources that are embedded in truth. One of them I love is Genevieve's Gluck's work in Redux magazine. And I'm going to put her magazine and her links down below. But Redux magazine or Redux, that publication, always deals in truth, and it lets you know about what is happening in regards to female erasure and these new linguistic tricks that we see that we may not agree with, but we don't have an outlet to speak about it, because once you do decide to speak about it, everyone comes for you and they call you a bigot. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to speak. And this is deliberate. When you read about what happened in religion in regards to the early Crusades, they tormented people. People were petrified to speak out against what they were being told is true. And we see men doing this again. So let me know what you think about this video. Thank you for listening. Please visit west4bmovement.com. Please like the video. Please share. Please subscribe. Please hashtag 4B in the comment section to let me know that you watched this thing to the end. And thank you so much for listening to me. I take no one for granted. See you next time.